Could you tell us, yes, not that the authorities are just, or the security agencies are sitting down, folding their arms and waiting for these things to happen. Perhaps what more? What should they do in addition to what they're doing?
Okay, in relation to intelligence, there are three processes involved in intelligence operations. So they need to look at these three processes and see what they can do to help prevent terrorists from striking first. The first one is we need to establish detailed background information on terrorists and those who support them. I see that we're beginning to do that. We now know that their training grounds is in Mali, and we know who the head of Boko Haram is, the Mr. Shakar. We're getting some other information on where they're training, how they're doing it, and who they're working with. So the Nigerian intelligence, they're doing a good job there. We need to be aware of the tactics they use. We need to be aware of the training they have received. We also need to be aware of the operational patterns they follow. Second, we need to create an efficient retrieval system so that the information can be passed on quickly to the men in the field as they need it. I talked about information moving by the speed of light. Okay, last time we talked, I discussed about setting up a Department of Homeland Security. That's one thing we need to do. We need to do that. Then we need to consolidate the security agencies. I'm talking about how we need to make information move at the speed of light.
Is there any difference between the Homeland Security and what the National Security Advisor does in Nigeria?
Well, at this point, I'm not exactly sure. But what I know is that under the Department of Homeland Security, we do have a fusion center. I talked about setting up the fusion centers, not just one in Nigeria, but setting up 6 to put them in the 6 geopolitical zones. Inside of the fusion centers, we need to equip them with intelligence analysts and intelligence gatherers. You put them in there, first of all, before anyone is inside this department, they all need to be vetted. There's a vetting process that needs to go on. I have access to the vetting process that we use in the U.S. If we can bring that type of vetting process
when you talk about vetting process, checking those who will man such facilities.
Yes, those
to see that they are not members of the bad guys.
Absolutely, because before you put someone in a department, you have to vet them, especially a department that's that sensitive. Just like some of these other sensitive Nigerian intelligence agencies, there's a vetting process that needs to go on. I was vetted when I was in the U.S. military, and I wasn't just in the U.S. Army. I was in the U.S. military intelligence. So the kind of vetting process that we have in the U.S. is great. And by the time for anyone to be in that department, there's something special about that person. So that's the vetting process is one of the areas that we need to look at, for the Nigerian intelligence. Make sure that the people you're bringing in are not members of the Boko Haram, or they're not sympathizers of Boko Haram terrorists or any other terrorist organization, before you can hire them and train them.
That's for the fusion center.
That's for the future. That's what we, like you were asking, that's some of the things that we need to be doing after we set up this fusion center. Once you have the intelligence analysts and intelligence gatherers, and you train them, then you send the intelligence gatherers out to the public to now mingle with the businesses, the public, and form a synergy. And that way, they get information, they send it back to the fusion center. Fusion center sends it up to the SSS and JTF and some of the other, and then they share information, and it comes way back down to the people in the field. And that needs to be done with the speed of light. Until we get to that stage, we're going to be going through this.
Well, you talked about geopolitics, and knowing full well that Nigeria is quite different from where you've worked before.
Yep.
Culturally, religiously, and even politically, quite different. So how can we make it, should I say, compatible to our lifestyles? If you talk about fusion center and you talk about individuals, we've seen people who say, well, you can't just send maybe someone from the southeast to the northeast because I think he just might be cut off.
Yeah, that's fine. We can still do that. The issue is not doing it. We can do that. We can find, once we do the vetting process and we have the qualified people inside, then we can figure out who needs to go where. That's not a problem at all. The issue is doing the initial things, which is doing the vetting, then the training, The training has to be ongoing. I spent 10 years in the U.S. military. So permit me to be a little bit arrogant. I think I know a lot of what should be done in this situation. Once you train people well and you vet them well, the problem of where they go and whether they are from here or from there, there's not going to be a problem there. You can find the people that can fit different political
what
journeys.
happens then if that wasn't done at the initial stage and you already have a system wherein most people came in, you didn't do what you were supposed to do properly? How do you begin to adjust?
Well, that's the problem, and that's what we're having right now. That's why we're having all these terrorist attacks, because now information is no longer moving by the speed of light. By the time we the security agencies get the information, they've already struck. Now, in Jaji, I was there a few months ago, so I know exactly where this thing happened. So that's, this is the problem you get from not doing these things that I talked about. Simple. If you don't do them, you get these kinds of issues.
So what do we do now that this has happened?
But,
How do we move
sorry,
from
sorry,
here?
Noto, but that's
Okay.
not totally possible, because in other places where it was done, even the United States, before the Homeland Security was set up, they also had intelligence officers,
Yeah.
but they were taken unawares. So sometimes it could possibly be learning from example. After
Absolutely.
every hit, you get to learn from that experience.
Yeah. We learned from 9/11, and since then, have you heard anything? I mean, how many years has it been? But here, it's constant. That answers the question. You see, we can't keep going to, well, it happens to other places. Well, yeah, it happens in other places, but they learn, and they learn well. We learn, but we don't learn well yet. So we need people who have more experience and who are more experienced in this field to come home. Bring some of these security guys.
You know, you keep talking about coming home, like, well, those in here, they don't have the experience or the expertise.
It's just to partner with them.
All right,
Partnership,
because some of them are here already, they also went out just like you. They
you
got
know,
the same
you can
training.
you can go training for 2 months.
They also got the same training and they came back.
Well, I think a few. It's true. Some people have the same training, or maybe close to the same training, but you can't just go out for one month and train for a month and say that you have the same training. You can't go for 2 weeks and say you have the same training. You can't just train from private entities in the U.S. and come back and say you have the same training. No, you have to be inside of the greatest army in the world, which is the United States Army. If you're not part of that organization, you don't have the same training. Even being in that organization and being in the intelligence department, it's not the same training. It can never be. Now we have people that work for the FBI who are Nigerians. Those are the people I'm talking about that you need to bring home to work with those that are already here.
You're going to talk about the legal, economic, I think talk about the political.
Yes, I talked about the legal, economic, the political. All of those are also part of this problem. And last time I talked about the economic, which is doing certain things, setting up SMEs. I talked about that, government helping fund the small businesses. And the agriculture sector, they need to do that so then they can employ, start employing youths who are unemployed. There's high unemployment here. That's part of the economic side, employing the youths and making sure that people have jobs. And the way you do that, like I said, is to fund the small businesses and let them hire people. They're the ones that hire people.